Okay, there we go. Don't think the microphone was working when I first started it up, but now it looks like I'm getting some audio feed. This is totally an unannounced stream. Just trying to check out my internet again, see if it's going to hold up. While I do some painting. I'm sitting out here painting anyways, so I might as well stream. Don't think anyone's gonna come, but again, this is just a test. I think maybe I'll start with some dry brushing instead. I did a little bit of priming of some more guys. I am just trying to speed paint through these things because I have so much stuff to paint that I just want to get some color on them, and some of them are coming out pretty nice. Like I like this guy back here. I really like the way the fire came out on this guy. You know, and this is mostly just speed paints. I did the undercoating, which on YouTube became popularly known as slap chop a couple years ago. It was not a new method by any means, just got a new kind of silly name that made it a little more popular. It's really just undercoating. But I do that. I like to do what I might call like slap chop plus or undercoating plus, because I will do the dry brushing part and the speed paint part, but I don't necessarily speed paint all of it, or I might speed paint and then put dry brush on top. And in order for it to work really well, I mean, some people might say you should just prime in gray, but in order for it to work really well, you really don't want a whole lot of black still showing. The speed paints and the contrast. I don't know about contrast paints as much, but I know I have a lot of the Army Painter speed paints, the 2.0 stuff. And for that to work really well, it doesn't really like black very much. I mean, it's designed, and the instructions say to go over white primer. And so you might say, well, yeah, duh, it doesn't work really well because that's not what it's designed to do. And you'd be right. So I'm going to get a lot of coverage with this gray, and then we will go back over it with white. And some places that are hard to reach with dry brush, I will even use a regular brush to get even more color. I just want the very, very, very recesses to be black. But anyways, like I was saying, I do speed paint and then some regular paints, some washes, some dry brushing. Like a lot of the flesh on this particular set of miniatures is regular paint, regular flesh colored paint with Reichland Flesh Shade wash over it. I just like the way that looked better than I had the initial ATO, like the starting 4 Titans, done with just a flesh colored speed paint. It might have been a contrast paint over a initial undercoating like this, but it looked a little too dark for me. And even my ATO videos, and there might even be some pictures on the starting slideshow for this, they just look too dark. And I wanted to lighten them up, and I actually lightened up my Hecaton too, but that one I just did some dry brushing over. This guy I forgot to add the little weapon thing here when I initially had primed him. So just the very, very, very recesses are black. And you can even see the difference between a gray, once the gray versus once the white gets on. The white, there's still some shades of gray in there, but it's predominantly white. You can see a difference. So we're gonna have to add some gray, some white onto that one. Ooh, I've still got some gray out here, so let's do this guy. I think this is a Cycle 2, the Nietzschean, is that what his name is? Don't want to waste the gray paint while I got it out. My super high tech piece of cardboard. I've set out some old mantic zombies and skeletons and dwarves and things that I'm going to use to make a dry brush palette. So that's like a thing that you build to get all the excess paint off of your dry brush instead of using paper towel or something. Because if it gets too dry, I mean, it is called dry brush, but it can be too dry. If it gets too dry when you're trying to dry brush, not necessarily an undercoat like this, but it could impact an undercoat like this too. But anyways, it can get chalky. So if you think your dry brushes are coming out chalky, try getting some old plastic, or you can even make one if you have basing material like sand or whatever. Just glue some sand down to something and then use that to get excess paint off of your brush. It also is going to give you a good idea of how much paint is going to come off of your brush when you're actually dry brushing. Or I've also, and I think I told Barrett and Colin this in Apollo, that if you have extra Legos, excess Legos, glue a bunch of Legos down to something, and use Legos to be your dry brush paint remover / tester. I didn't even have time to put up on Discord or anything that I was going to do this. Wow, so I didn't even notice when I was looking at this guy before, but now I see it that I'm dry brushing. There's actually like some skulls in these flames. I don't think I'm going to worry too much about getting that stuff looking good, because what's probably going to happen in the painting process for this guy, now that I look at it, is I'll do the flames first and then come back and probably have to repaint some of the skulls white so that I can get some of the bony color down onto it. But with the flames, I want the flames to be very bright, so we'll get as much gray in here as possible, and then we'll really hit it with the white. Let me get to the... I might not do the white on this guy today. I'm just doing the gray on him for now because I had extra gray. Oops, sorry, bumped the camera. If I had reliable gray primer that I liked, I might just start priming in gray. On the other hand, I have such a huge bottle of black primer that it seems silly not to use it too. And I do like the way that the black with this undercoating stays in the recesses. All right, I'm almost out of paint here. All right, that's good enough for that guy. Using up as much paint as possible. I'm just using a piece of cardboard. This cardboard also soaks up less of the water than if you were to use a paper towel to get the paint, excess paint off. Do a little white. I'm using Pro Acryl Bold Titanium White for the white. The white primer. Or not primer, the white for the dry brushing. I do have a bottle of white primer, but it's airbrush primer, so it's super thin. And I don't like the way that it dry brushes on. It's not designed for that. Definitely want probably going to end up painting all of this flesh anyway, an actual flesh color. So I don't think I have to worry too much about the flesh. I really like the way dry brushing just brings out a lot of the detail too. Even if you're not using a speed painting method, if anyone ever asks me like how to get better, or if they're a new painter, if you got any tips, I always tell them like learn how to do dry brushing really well. Because starting out, even if you're just using base coats, washes, and dry brushing, man, it can really up your game, and it doesn't take very long. And don't waste your money on like expensive brand name dry brushes. Just get makeup brushes from Amazon. These are Zoria blending makeup brush. Look at that difference between the white and the gray. He already looks sweet. I don't know what the names of these Titans are, and I don't even know if this is a Cycle 2 or a Cycle 3 Special Titan. And I'm assuming this is a Titan. I guess I'm just assuming because of the size. I don't even know yet if you... because I have not played Cycle 2 or 3. I'm waiting for my expansion second Kickstarter stuff to come. And then I'm going to start a really long play of Cycles 1 through 5 on the channel. I really love this game. I know it's super complicated, and it's not for everybody, but I love it. I love the story mixed in with the boss battler feel that you get from another game that I love, Kingdom Death Monster. But with the second Kickstarter, I ordered the luxury tiles, and I ordered the tome that's supposed to be like a way to keep your like technologies and your ship stuff, and maybe the gear you don't have currently out in the battle all organized and stuff. So I'm waiting for that stuff. The Kickstarter's for filling now. I just don't have mine yet. It's supposed to be done by December 13th, I think they said. But initially it was supposed to be by Thanksgiving, which is tomorrow, and obviously that didn't happen. This fulfillment company they're using is super slow. But it seems like the Kickstarters this year have all been like really, really slow. Kickstarters or GameFound, whichever. It's like, I always say Kickstarter for some reason, because I guess it was just Kickstarter forever. All right. Those are primed and dry brushed, ready for painting. This guy's already got some of the flesh color on him. I'm not going to put a wash on it right now. I like to do the rest of the painting first and then see if there were any errors or mistakes or whatever. Then I can go back with the flesh color and fix that before I put the wash over it. I'm shooting for an hour per miniature. Not trying to do like anything competition worthy or whatever. I just want some nice color and stuff on them so they look nice on the table. Like I think this looks like pretty sweet to play with, and this is all just speed paint, and except for this brass color is regular paint with a wash on it. But I mean, just putting speed paint like with 2 different tones, this ball looks so sweet, so simple, so fast. It's gonna be fun to play with. All right. Now, the plan, I think, for this guy, this gun's going to be, I'm going to go back to that brass color. I'll probably do like the hardened leather color for all of these little things here. And this just looks like regular stone back here, but then we've got some buildings up on top. So I'm going to go with like a dark stone color, like this dark stone color for the rocks. And then have this color, Griff Charger Gray contrast color that I'll do for the buildings and stuff on top. I'll do metal for his head. I know it's kind of silly to do metal for these Titans, because if you think about it, like, oh my god, that would be so much metal because these guys are huge. But whatever, I don't really care. Fire coming out of the dragon's mouth here. Maybe do some other dark color for this bottle. And a lighter color for this rope. That's the plan. But we're going to start with a leather color. And I'll probably use 2 different brushes as I go to cover a lot of area with one brush, and then when in the detailed spots, we'll use a smaller brush if I have to, and then I can always cover up some stuff with the gray paint. I'm using a poppet thing with these speed paints, so easy to clean. Don't need a wet palette. Speed paints. I guess technically you don't ever need a wet palette, but I'm not going to break out a wet palette for this speed paint stuff. All right. This hardened leather from Army Painter in my opinion, is a little more reddish brown than what's the contrast paint called? The Snake by Leather. I don't mind it though. In fact, I like that the two leather colors from the different lines um, aren't like super similar, because I'll even use them on the same model. Like I don't really care that that rock got a little bit on it. The darker gray might cover that up just fine. But anyways, yeah, I don't really mind that they're not too close. It's actually a feature. Probably go back and cover up that spot on that bottle though. And I know hardly anyone's ever going to see this down here, so just go through and cover it up real fast. Put some color in there. Not the best angle for you guys filming, or for you guys watching as I film. My brush barely can even fit in there. I'm gonna want to use the smaller brush probably to get back in there. I'm gonna switch real quick. That other brush I was just using is kind of like my workhorse, don't care what the tip looks like kind of painting. This one is a super cheap, like comes in a gigantic pack from the craft store brush. But it's been maintaining a decent point and doing its job. So like that, there's a part on this flesh I'll have to come back and fix up later. Before I put the flesh shade on. But that's why I don't waste my time doing the shading right now. I just made that worse. Bad plan. Sometimes with these things, it's hard to tell if you've missed a spot or if it's like just reflecting light. Because a lot of times spots where it's reflecting light looks like spots that you missed. Going back to the big brush. Cover some surface area back here. I had thought about doing this in like a light red instead of a leather color. I thought that might be kind of interesting because a lot of the Titans have ended up having a lot of the same colors and stuff on them, but I thought, that's all right. We'll just go with the leather. Stream health looks pretty good. And that was the whole point of doing this, was testing to see how it would hold up. Because, man, my internet service provider is extremely inconsistent. Now, that's a rock right there. Dang it. Okay, I'm supposed to have 50 up, and sometimes I get like 2. But I live so in a like sparsely populated area. It's still in town, but there's not a whole lot of houses out this direction. So they don't really have too much incentive to like invest in the infrastructure to put better lines in. Like it'll probably be forever or never for us to get fiber. It would have to be something like just the whole system is so fast it needs to have fiber or something. I don't know if there will ever even be such a day. Not worried about getting a little bit of paint on the helmet because the helmet's going to get painted over with a metallic color. Fix that flash. And that little flesh spot. It's kind of showing through. This flame cannon thing is also going to get painted metallic. But I want leather on the strap. Some of these little edges, they kind of fix themselves also when the flesh shade color goes on. But big spots like that spot on the leg, that's got to get covered up. and right there on the thigh, that ran down. And then that gap there probably too. Because that shade's obviously going to want to run into the recesses. So that part was reflecting light, but it still looked like it was not painted. This actually helps some with the magnification on the screen as well. Try to do something else with that and that. All right. Look at that. We covered a lot of surface area with just that one color. All right, let's go for the dark gray on the rocks. Have to see how this goes as it dries. I might come back and do a second coat just to get it darker. If you do that with speed paints, or I know even this statement's going to be very true with contrast paints too. If you're going to go back with a second coat, make sure the first coat is completely dry. Because if it's not, you could pull away parts that are drying, and then you're going to end up with these weird rings that look like, I've heard them called like coffee stains. I think that's what they're referring to. But like if you leave something on a table and you get like a ring, like a liquid stain. It doesn't look good, is the moral of the story. You either got to put it on like right away before it has started to have a chance to dry, or leave it alone until it is completely dry. And you also, with these transparent paints, let them do their thing before you go back and start messing with it anymore. There's like a chemical thing. Chemical might be stretching it, but there's some things happening with it wanting to move and all that kind of stuff. All right. So we might come back and make that darker. Wait, I see a spot that needs. let's get our, is it Griff Charger Gray? We're gonna do the fire after this. Fire's fun to paint. I almost could have just left this the white dry brushing color. That might have also just looked fine. Just want to get a little bit of a different kind of gray onto here. Give me just 1 second. Hey, Doug. For Black Friday, for KDM, if they have any new white boxes that they're going to put out, maybe. There's not really anything I need to get on sale because, I mean, this might sound bad, but they've ordered everything already. But if they've got any new white boxes or anything, that's what I would look for. All right. Let's see what it looks like when it's not like so super zoomed in. Let it dry. I could actually even go back with a dry brush on that top part to lighten it up even more. We'll see after it dries. What do I want to do with that? Yeah, and I don't know if there's gonna be any dice or anything, but we'll see if they come out with the white box. Like the Black Friday Ninja is probably gonna be available again, but I have that already. I don't know if there's something cheap. Maybe I'll get something for Barrett and Colin because they're playing through Gambler's Chest on their channel right now. Yeah. Oh, let's do the fire. It's highly dangerous having a bunch of these things open at the same time, but I want to do this fast before stuff dries. So we're just going to have to be a little careful. Some of this is going to get on the dragon, but that's fine again because we're going to go back over it with metallics. I just want a little bit of orange. Blend in there. Now we get even less red at the tip. Blend in. And now we're going to add a little bit, smallest little tiny bit of black. Oh, thanks, Doug. And we'll see how this dries. Kind of want to push the teeny tiny bit of orange. Down in that way. There we go. All right, I gotta check those texts real quick. Okay. Get these closed before I have a heart attack. Do you paint your stuff, Doug? I put something in the wrong spot. All right, now we're more organized. So that actually dried lighter on the top. It looks a little darker on the camera than it does in person. So I just like the fact that you can see the difference between the rocks and like the crumbled buildings on top. And it looks fine. All right, before we move to the metallic, you do. I take more. I don't know why, but I take more time when I do my KDM stuff. Actually, like layering and putting highlights and stuff on it than what I've been doing with these. But I'm just trying to get stuff ready for the table, just that I'm not playing with gray plastic. And I think the speed painting works perfectly well for just getting stuff on the table. Sorry, I'm shaking it. The cord fell. All right. Do we need to fix anything on the bottle there? Gotta touch up a couple of parts real quick. I got some of the other color on it. Man, this is so thin. What color should we do the rope? Yeah, I think KDM has for models that you have to. So I'm going to classify this a couple different ways. For models that you have to build, I think KDM has some of the best sculpts in gaming. Even rivaling like Games Workshop stuff for 40K or whatever. As far as things that don't require building, these ATO sculpts are really nice, but Awakened Realms really has nice looking stuff too. The Primal sculpts weren't bad. I guess they don't have them over there anymore. I like some of the Primal sculpts. But if you compare something like Shadows of Brimstone, not that Shadows of Brimstone stuff is bad, but you have to put Shadows of Brimstone models together. So if you compare like Shadows of Brimstone to KDM, the KDM sculpts, I mean, but you're paying for it too. Like KDM sculpts are not cheap by any means. You know, like a white box where you get one miniature and maybe some gameplay stuff or some beta gameplay stuff. Is like what, $25? I don't know, maybe some of them are $15, but that's why you wait for Black Friday, right? Man, this gray is so thin, like the color is still just shining right through. Some gray over it is better than no gray over it. All right, I want to do a dark color for that jar to contrast that flesh and that leather right next to it. And we'll do this lighter color for the rope that's holding it there. And then we'll do like a black for the tube going from the jar to the flame cannon. Man, every time I barely touch this arm, the camera wiggles and wiggles. Look at that fire. Holy cow. What'd that take? A minute? 2? Tops? Letting those wet contrast paints move and blend on their own a little bit and just not putting too much of the other colors over top of each other. You don't want to overpower the yellow with too much orange and so on. Now, this color might take a couple coats to get my desired. Maybe I should have done a yellow rope. Yeah, oh well. The one downside with these transparent paints is that because they're designed to run into the recesses, they definitely run into the recesses. So like the little edge between this rope and the flesh, it's running down into there. That might not show. Oh, dang, I totally got the arm there. That might not show up as bad once the flesh shade gets on there. Yeah, that's not contrasting enough from the leather. Oh well, we'll put the dark color on the bottle and then maybe it'll look fine. I'm just gonna go with this. Not trying to spin forever on these things again. The longest part might be putting down the metallic color. Put the metallic on, and then I'm gonna have to let that dry, and then I'm gonna put the Nuln Oil over it so that it loses a little bit of the shine. Oh man, you could totally see the flesh got hit with that leather color right there. I'll fix that flesh too, and then when I put the Nuln Oil on, I'll probably go back with the flesh shade at the same time. So all that stuff is drying all together. And I thought this was darker. Do not want that to accumulate like that. So what I was talking about earlier, I'm just going to go back over it again before it starts to dry to darken it up. Then we'll see how it moves around, because some of these things that are accumulating, they might run into some of the recesses. And I might end up going over this again with something else depending upon how it dries. See, I like that darkness showing against the leather there. Kind of wishing the rope was a little lighter, maybe. I don't know. We'll see it. Oh, there's more in the back there that I missed. Right there, past the tube. I mean, these things are not really designed for big flat surfaces, right? So that's probably a piece that I should have painted with just regular acrylics. These transparent paints really shine where you have a lot of this texture for them to do their thing with. So like this little hose thing, if I was going to take longer on each miniature, I would do this base coat just like I did with the transparent paint, speed paint or contrast, whatever. And then maybe after it dried, you could go back and just put a little dark gray or light gray highlight on each little segment, and that would kick it up a notch. If you wanted to take the time to do that. Not that these miniatures don't deserve it, but like I said, I have so much stuff to paint, just trying to get through some of my backlog. And I'm going to be playing this game really soon. So I want to get this stuff done. Yeah, as this stuff dries, it's so much easier to see where you missed little tiny spots. And the difficult thing is that with some of the colors, you have to be really, really careful about going back and adding. Because just I was talking about going back with a second coat, if you go back trying to touch a little tiny part that you missed and then end up adding too much to the surrounding area is going to look darker than everything else. Having it magnified on the screen that I'm staring at up above me is actually quite nice also. Let's do the metal first before I fix any flesh color parts. I wonder, should I use this bronze or should I use golden art? No, let's use bronze. It's fine. Put it on this cardboard. Get my special metallics jar and metallics brush. So painting tip of the day, use a different water jar and brushes for your metallics than your regular paints, especially if you're a brush licker. I used to be a brush licker. I'm not really a brush licker anymore, which is a very weird sentence to say out loud, but not just for brush licking purposes, but if you use the same jar for your metallics and your regular paints, and you cross-pollinate your brushes, you're also going to potentially pull some of the little metallic flakes into your brush that you're trying to use for normal colors. You might end up with a little bit of that little metallic-y stuff showing in your normal colors, in your regular colors. I didn't put nearly enough paint on this. Oh, I wonder if we should do those hoses back there black. Let's start with not painting those metallic. That might be nice to add some contrast, a darker color up there by this bright metallic color and that lighter gray. Now this is going to look really, really bright until it gets the black wash put on it. So don't think it's going to look like this in the end. Do not want to get any of this metallic on the stuff I've already painted. Because that's basically like a go back and do that part again. You got to cover it up with primer, or not primer, you got to cover it up with an oopsie paint, like gray in this instance. Yeah, we're gonna do those hoses black. That's gonna make more sense than having them be metal, right? But we will put that little part right there to be metal. Looks like part of the helmet. We want to make sure that's like completely dry too before putting the Nolan oil on it, because you do not want that to run. that Nuln Oil to like grab it and run. Now there's a little spot right there that didn't get any flesh on it. All right, now we got to be really careful with the dragon's mouth around our awesome looking fire. I do not want to do that again. The Nuln Oil will take care of some of the edge. I think I just painted some of the fire, didn't I? I thought that was part of his mouth. That little tiny part is fine. I can fix that. I'll just cover that up with white and then just that little tiny bit of yellow. Sorry about the angles right now. This is delicate. All right. That was the nerve-wracking part. Need a little bit more. What did I do with it? I also don't want to damage the paint job on the strap. Which I did. Oh well, that part I'll cover up with Nuln Oil and no one will be able to tell. No one will be the wiser. That's a weird saying. I've had these metallic paints for so long, they're getting kind of thick. So I try to incorporate a little bit of water, but you also, just like I was talking about with the Nuln Oil, you do not want them to... I just totally painted over that hole. That's okay, it looks like a ring anyways. You don't want the water to take the little speckly parts of the metallic and have it run all over the model. Parts that you've already painted. These parts that no one's ever going to see. Sometimes really hard to get to. Shouldn't worry about them so much. $50-50, we're going to end up with some metal on it. No, never mind. 100% because I already did it. End up with a little tiny spot on his belly. Now for the back of the cannon. I love it when you put a metallic down and it dries, and then you go back and do the wash over it, and then all of those little details just start popping right back out. You get to see all that detail again. All right. I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to try to fix that little boo-boo on the flame. Real quick. That's too much paint. Dang it. Oh no, what did I do? Put my metallic brush over there. All right. Teeny tiny bit of white. Top of that metallic mistake. Okay, and then we'll go back over that when that dries with the yellow contrast. And that'll be fine. Let's do the Black Templar on the hoses. That makes a whole lot more sense than having that also be metallic. All right. We're gonna fix the flesh. Oopsies. Where else? Ooh, elbow. Thought there was another. Oh, that black spot. Didn't get painted the first time. All along here. There. Hand looks a little dark. Did just notice there's a handle in his hand. Is there any dry paint on here still? I mean, dry. Is there any non-dry paint on here still? Oh, yeah. All right. Yellow on the fire. Teeny tiny bit of yellow. Pretty bright. We'll see. It might dry down. but it looks better than metallic. Metallic oopsie. All right, now we're going to come in with some aggressive flesh shading, not leave our black Templar open to be spilled. Can't tell if that's a mist spot or light reflecting. That's definitely a missed spot down there. That was a missed spot. All right. Now this stuff definitely changes as it dries, this flesh shade. We're going to start down here. Might have to do some more fixing on the base before I paint the base stuff. I don't want it to accumulate on the big flat parts, like the top of the leg there. Just have to watch it as it starts to dry. But this is another thing where you don't want to mess with it a whole lot after you get it on there and too much time has gone by. You will get those weird coffee stain effects. So you also really should try to concentrate on like an area that's all connected. Because if you come back later when a part has already started to dry, it can start to look weird. I might put more of this stuff on than other people. But I really like the details to show, to be brought back out. Even that was pushing it going back down there because this stuff does not take too long to dry. Not too worried about getting the flesh shade color on the metallic color because the Nuln oil will help cover it up. The black wash. See, like I finished that top part of that chest and that arm, all that stuff was connected. This arm was broken by the rope from being connected to that section. Probably could have fixed that, but oh well, it's fine. I accidentally touched the tube. Get that off of there. I mean, this is not the best like skin result. The best skin results come from obviously layering. I mean, that's you could probably say that about any part of painting miniatures, right? The best results come from painting. I don't mind this look for getting minis on the table. I mean, we're hyper zoomed in right now. If you weren't hyper zoomed in, I think they look good. Like you can maybe see the ones in the back. It's not really focused on them, but I think that flesh, like from this distance, it looks good. You can tell it's flesh. Now we're going to null and oil the metal. Let some stuff dry. Did that yellow dry down? That looks fine. Probably wouldn't even never know. All right. And this new null and oil formula, that's not new anymore, but the changed null and oil formula, it's very different. And I feel like it doesn't even, when you're putting it on, it can be a little deceiving. Like it hardly looks like it's doing anything. But I think it has more of an impact after it dries. And I go really heavy with this sometimes because I really want to see I was talking about it earlier, I really want to see the detail on the metallics. I don't want it to be too heavy. Into the other parts. Oh, I see a little bit of flesh back there that I'm going to let the rest of that stuff around it probably dry before I go back and get that. There's a little tiny strip back there in the back that I missed. Oh, and on the hand, top of the hand right there too. I don't want to play around with potentially hitting the stuff that's in the process of drying though. So I'm going to let that finish drying first. I want a lot on here. I want to see the details on this flame cannon and the dragon's face up here. So these parts in the back here, where maybe a little too much has accumulated, I'm just going back and using that as my source sometimes instead of just going straight back to the pot all the time. So can you see a difference between the Nuln oiled part of the face versus the non-Nuln oil part? You don't want to hold this upside down for too long. I don't want the stuff to run the opposite direction and settle. There we go. That was quick. And some of that flesh shade stuff is already dry. Got it. And all right, any other parts to fix before put stuff on the base? It's still a little dark right there. That rock. Does it look like he's standing on rocks? Or do I just do the whole thing? In the... Oh God, did I just touch the flame? No. I'm not worried about that right there. That's going to get covered up with the black that goes around the rim. Just trying to decide if I want to do, because it kind of looks like he's standing on a big rock right there. If I should do that. There's already so much gray on the top of this guy. I guess if I don't like it, I can always cover it up. Something else. I'm going to do it. I'm going to put gray down for that rock part, and then so there's even some contrasting on the base. Do that part as a rock. The debate in my head was just, should I just do all one color for the base? But I think this will look better. And make this a rock. All right, now we'll come back in with the other yellowish brown color that I've been using for the ground. Just to have some different colors. On the base. I'm gonna let this whole thing dry. And then I might come back with a dry brush on those rocks back here, just since it's such a large portion of the miniature. Just so there's even more contrast. I mean, really the star of this thing is the fire, right? Is the cannon breathing fire. let more of that flesh shade dry on there and see if there's any parts that I want to touch up or highlight. But I want to let the stuff all like completely dry. I don't want to go too light with those rocks though, because then I lose the contrast with the top. So maybe dry brushing the top even would be better than dry brushing the rocks. I'm not mad at how that stuff dried on that little fuel container there. So we got an hour and 44 with a lot of talking, plus there was some dry brushing of the other stuff at the beginning. You know, shooting for an hour or less. I think this looks pretty good. So I got to go around the rim with the black, but I'm saving up to do a bunch of them all at once for that, instead of getting a bunch of paint, possibly pouring too much paint out. You know, just get some paint out and then go over all of these guys. This guy still needs it. I like the bone color on this one. See, like the feathers on this one started out as just maybe a speed paint, some kind of speed paint. And then I dry brushed a really light gray on it. It's a lot of contrast. It's not showing up as well on the camera, but in person, the recesses are really dark. Might be the light, how the camera's interpreting the light going into there. They really stick out. This is another one where if I was going to spend the time, I would detail all these little dots and everything. But that alone could take a while, just to make sure that you don't mess up the previous paint job. This one was again another was a contrast with some dry brushing on it. Another flame on that guy. But I'm just showing these again because these are all the ones that I still got to do the rim around the base. And it's amazing how much doing that brings out the detail. Even more. It just makes them look so complete doing that little, what I call victory lap at the end. All right, that's going to be it for this stream. Just testing out. Again, thanks, Doug, for coming and chatting if you're still here. I know this, again, wasn't scheduled. Hopefully I can start being able to schedule some things a little more. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this and everything I put up on the channel. See you in the next one.